welcome to another Pye and Smith production. We're here today. We're going to go through the World Championships for the darts that starts on December the 15th. There's 4 quarters in the darts, so we're going to split into 4 different videos, if you like, shortened down versions, a lot shorter than the first video that we did, which 113 people to this point have enjoyed, which is quite amazing. So, yeah, we're going to kick off with quarter 1. I'm Adam Smith. That is Matt Pieman Hill, and away we go.
Yeah, well, just before we dive in any further, Adam, just a little bit of an overview of what the World Championship is. Don't think I need to go too basic. We know it is the marquee event of the PDC calendar, held over Christmas every year. I'm sure everyone watching is at least aware of that. This year we have 96 players, so that's going to consist of 32 first-round matches, and then each winner of those matches will play a predetermined ranked player. So basically, if you're one of the big boys in the top 32, you don't come in until the second round. We're going to be looking, I'm going to take a look at each round 1 match. So obviously this is quarter 1 in this video. We're going to take a look at the round 1 match and then who they will be playing in round 2, which seed they're going to face. And then Adam's going to give a little bit of background on the seeds. I'm going to take you through the dross of the draw, if you will. But yeah, I've got to dive straight in. There is some big names in these round 1 matches, but not all of them. So hopefully you'll learn a little bit, and I'll try and blag my way through these matches. Go on, Adam. Before
we're going to cover every single player, so all of the 96 players will be covered in the 4 quarter videos that we're going to do. So I don't think you're going to get that anywhere else. Do you, Pieman?
I was going to say I don't think anyone else is stupid enough to try and take on anything like this, especially a couple of blaggers like this. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to give it a go. So I'm going to dive straight in. Quarter 1 in this video, so hopefully you will go on to watch all 4 videos. But if you don't, let's see what you think of this one. So I will just run through the 8 seeds in the section first. So these guys are going to come in at round 2, and Adam's going to give you a bit more detail on these as they go. But we have Michael Van Gerwen, the favourite for the tournament, Rapid Ricky Evans, Joe Cullen, Johnny Clayton, Dave Chisnell, Danny Nopper, Dimitri Vandenberg and Jermaine Watamina. So they are 8 seeded players. But first, going to take a look at the round 1 ties, starting with Ryan Murray versus Lawrence Elligan, right at the top of the draw. Ryan Murray, a Scotsman. He's probably best known for Michael Van Gerwen hitting 2 9-darters against him in a match. I will give him a bit of credit. The nickname Muzz Lightyear got to be up there with one of the best names in the field. But that's not going to get you very far in terms of the tournament. He won his Q School card in January, hasn't pulled up many trees, faces Elligan, who many people will remember from last year. Hopefully we get to see a bit of him, because last year he spent most of his first round match stood in front of the camera, so you couldn't actually see much. But yeah, he's a character. He chucks his darts like arrows. He's got a really distinctive throw. Can hinder him a little bit when they lie in too high. He's a bit of a stacker. Phil Taylor fans will enjoy this guy. He's a real character. I'm not too passionate either way with this match, but I would probably lean towards Elligan just because of his experience at the Ali Pali. And the winner of that match, Adam, will take on MVG. So if you want to give us a bit more about Van Gerwen, please do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Van Gerwen is top price at the moment, 5-2 to win the Worlds. And actually he was as big as 4-1 before the Grand Slam got underway in mid-November. You'd have to go back as far as the 2014 renewal to get this kind of price about the Green Machine. 5-2 is one of those. It's going to be kind of a hindsight job. I mean, he's been odds on or close to odds on for many of the years between 2014 and now. So you know that is the reason his price has shorted up from that 4-1 to the 5-2. He has shown glimpses of a return to top form. The Grand Slam, he was looking like getting somewhere back to his best. Lost that epic quarterfinal to Simon Whitlock, where all the 180 records were broken by the Australian. And then he showed the best form of the year for me so far in the Players' Championship finals. Won that event. That was a couple of weeks ago. The last event before the Worlds. Averaged 110 in the quarterfinal, 104 in the final. So he did look like his upturning form was on the way back. That we mentioned in the first video we did a couple of weeks ago. That has coincided. This comeback of form for Van Gerwen's coincided with him going back to using his old darts. So at the start of the year, he announced a new partnership with a different dart supplier, and through a couple of things, COVID being one of them, and lack of form to his level, being the other, there's been the reasons why he's switched back to his old darts. And there's not been an official announcement, if you like, but he's been unable to get over to see the manufacturer and really work and change things. So he's gone back to the old faithful, and it's absolutely no coincidence that he's got back to form a little bit. He is the man to be, assuming that he's keeping with that equipment set up. We'll obviously come on to the rest of the quarter, but to me, this just looked quite straightforward for Van Gerwen. He's 4-6 to make the semi-final, i.e. win this quarter. And the only issue I see for him personally is Dimitri Vandenberg, who we will come on to later.
Definitely, and for what it's worth, I think, there are some players, seeded players, who'll be worried about their round 2 opponents after that draw, but I don't think MVG will be one of them. As you say, looks to have got a pretty kind run. Anyway, moving on to the next game, it's Mickey Mansell against Hauppai Puja. Sorry about the pronunciation if that's wrong for any Kiwis that might be watching us. But anyway, Mickey Mansell, one of the two's more solid players, Northern Irishman. He's a very capable floor player. Been around a long time. He's had some good runs in Players' Championships events. He's actually won one back in 2018. This is Mickey Mansell, who was actually fined £500 for a poor performance at the World Championships last year. No betting irregularities or anything like that. He genuinely got fined for playing shit, which, I mean, is a bit of a kick in the teeth. He come out with a statement and basically said, I've waited all year for the Worlds. I've tried my hardest. I've got beat. This fine is a bit of a kick in the teeth, So he's obviously got a few ghosts he wants to lay to rest here. He plays the New Zealander Puja, who appeared at the World Cup recently. Looks a solid enough player, but I'm not sure he'll have enough to trouble Mansell. Mansell has got a rotten record at the Ali Pali, it's worth mentioning. Lost 5 out of 5, but he's 8-15 to win this one, and I would be surprised if he was beaten.
Yeah, and awaiting Mansell in the second round would be Ricky Evans, Rapid Ricky, as he's known. He's around the 500 to 1 shot to win this tournament, so he's obviously pretty unlikely. One of the most entertaining players on the circuit for me, Ricky Evans. He's the fastest player on the circuit by a distance. He's a cameraman's worst nightmare when it comes to double-ins and combination checkouts. He just scrapes in, actually, as the number 32 seed. So that's why. So as a seed, you go straight into the second round, as we mentioned. So, yeah, he's number 32 seed. And he only just recently actually secured that slot. It was the order of merit was quite tight in that area. So, yeah, he might beat Mansell or Puja in round 2, but he won't be beating MVG in round 3. And he has an absolutely shocking record against MVG.
Tend to agree with you there, and I would say that if Mansell does get through, he may give Evans a game. Ricky Evans really struggled for form in recent times. Wouldn't be a massive surprise if he was to drop out prior to the MVG game. Next game in this quarter, we've got the experienced dog versus the young hound. It's Wayne Jones and Kieran Tian. Wayne Jones has actually got 3 kids older than Kieran Tian. I mean, Wayne Jones has been playing darts since before I started watching darts. Wayne Jones is an absolute stalwart of the circuit. Fair play to him for still being inside the world's top 100. This is a guy who was making the semi-finals of the Worlds in 2006. And he's still there in the top 100, so fair play to him. But it's fair to say his best days are beyond him. Kieran Tian, on the other hand, a lot to like about him. Finished second on the development tour last year. He has a lot of bottle. He got to the Ali Pali last year, thumped Ross Smith 3-0, who's a very capable player. And then he lost narrowly to Mervyn King. We're not going to fault anyone for losing to Mervyn King. So he had to get in right the last minute, won a qualifier 7-6 against Joe Merman, showed real bottle in the last leg. He'll be fired up for this, and I think he can turn Wayne Jones over. Surprised to see him odds against 6-5. Yeah,
looks a decent bet really in one of the first round games that are difficult to muster sometimes from a betting point of view, because you've got some unknowns in there, some aging players, some out of form players, obviously. So yeah, that looks a good bet in one of the first round matches. Jones or Tian will play Joe Cullen in the second round. He's around the 80 to 1 mark. We already have mentioned on our previous videos, one of the most unlucky players in the game. We covered that Grand Slam disaster. There's not really much we can add to that. He does have a poor record in the Worlds, though, Joe Cullen. He's been a pro 9 years, and away from the Worlds, and including, he's not made a televised semi-final as yet. So, he's been solid on tour this year without pulling up any trees. I've got a soft spot for him for some reason. I can't put my finger on it. I would like to see him do well, and he does show flashes that he's gonna really crack on. He just needs that consistency now. for a few years he was viewed as one of the younger players, but he's not now. He's 30. He's either 30 or 31 now. So really needs to start cracking on. 16 in the order of merit, which is more than respectable. There's some really good players at in the top 16/32 now. I would like to see him do well, and like I say, he's an 80-1 shot.
Yeah, I like Joe Cullen as well, and I don't want to add too much more to that. We both enjoy him. It'd be nice to see him do well. He's got a tough draw, let's be honest. I mean, Johnny Clayton looks a tough game in round 3, and MVG beyond that, he's going to have to do very well, and he's going to need some favours to have a run, but wouldn't begrudge him it. The next game in round 1 to cover is Keegan Brown versus Ryan Mikel. Keegan Brown, an absolute
Whoa. Big John Henderson.
Okay, I can't skip Big John. Scroll down too far on my word doc here. Yeah, no, you're quite right. John Henderson first, and then we'll get on to Keegan Brown. John Henderson versus Marco Cantelli. What do I say about John Henderson? Absolute icon. Probably one of the most popular players. A regular guest appearance in the Premier League, normally to an absolutely crowded house in Scotland. He has had a couple of runs to the last 16 at the Ali Pali, but I do have my concerns about his weight loss. And I don't mean this in a nasty way, but John Henderson has lost a lot of weight recently, and fair play to him. But we have seen it in the past with some players where when they lose weight quickly, i.e. Phil Taylor at a spell, Andy Fordham, it can affect you. It affects your balance. It affects all fragments of what is a very fragile game in darts, based purely on little finite movements. So not to say that this will have a negative impact on him long term, but there is a chance that his draw could be a little bit out of kilter, especially with that rock that he's so reliant on.
Well, I think we saw it a little bit in the Players' Championship finals. He was, he got dumped out in the first round. We were shocked at how slim he was. He had his bloody shirt tucked in for the first time ever, and
you'd like to see the shirt come back out ideally. And hopefully he's been having a few pints before the event. But seriously, I wouldn't be keen to get with Cantelli. I don't think he's got the pedigree to, he's not a solid bet. But I wouldn't be getting with Henderson either. There's enough question marks over him for me. I hope to see him do well, but I couldn't back him at the moment.
Yeah, and Johnny Clayton would be next up for one of those two guys. One of my personal favourites, the Ferret. He's grown on me over the years. Still works part time as a plasterer in Wales. He's had a great year, really. Probably more than likely the best year of his darting life. Obviously won the World Cup alongside Gerwin Price a couple of months ago. And before lockdown, he whacked in a 9-darter en route to the UK Open semi-final. Before rolling over to Gerwin Price, his Welsh teammate. That is an issue the Ferret has got. When he does come up against Price, he often gets brushed aside, too friendly, etc. But the positive on that front is that the Ferret is drawn miles away from Gerwin Price. If he is to meet him in this competition, it'll be in the final, which would be some feat for the Ferret. A potential third round match with Cullen, who we mentioned, that would be my idea of a really good game. And I'd be interested at the betting on that one, because currently, Clayton is 100-1 and Cullen is 80-1. So that would suggest that Clayton would be the bookies outsider against Cullen. If that's the case, I'm involved.
I personally would have that about 5-6 either way. I think that's a really, really close match. I agree with you. A really good match. And let's hope we get to see it. No disrespect to the other players, but I would thoroughly enjoy that. Now, obviously, couldn't wait to get onto Keegan Brown's match.
Oh, it's that pink T-shirt. You're thinking about his pink shirt. Yeah.
Well, Keegan Brown versus Ryan Mikel. I think Keegan has been a regular at the Ali Pali round 1. You normally find him in the first week of the World Championships having a decent ding-dong with somebody. He's been on the right and the wrong end of a few in recent years. I've been at the Ali Pali in recent years and seen Keegan Brown have some cracking matches. One against James Wade springs to mind. But problem with Keegan Brown this year, he does work in the NHS. He has had a very busy year away from darts. He's self-admitted that he hasn't had the practice time. He's out of form. He had a golden opportunity to beat Gary Anderson in the first round of the Players' Championship when Anderson was averaging in the 70s. He had a nice lead, Keegan Brown, and he just seemed to choke a bit at the finish line. Very worrying sign for me. Ryan Makel improving, Dev Tour winner, a youth semi-finalist. He's just creeping onto the national radar. I think he was in the Players' Championship first round, averaged 103 in losing to Peter Wright. No shame in that. Not one to go mad on, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Mikel turn Brown over.
And what are the prices in that? Do you know?
I think it's priced pretty much 5 to 6 either way, but I would need to check that. I don't recall there being a clear favourite there, and I think Mikel's evens, which is something I would be getting with.
Yeah, given what you've said about Keegan Brown's form and admirable activities away from the hockey as well. So yeah, Dave Chisnell awaits the winner of that one. Chizzy's 66-1. Again, another likeable character. Flashes of brilliance was the only words that really came to my mind when you could describe his whole PDC career along those lines, including this year. Usually goes deep in at least one TV major a year. Before falling at something like the quarters or the semi-final. He has made a couple of finals in his past. He's not done that this year, so maybe he's due one. He lost out to Jeffrey Deswan in a round 3 cracker last year. He is often on the wrong end of brilliant games, and that could happen. That could well happen again this year. But I would fancy him to beat one of the qualifiers. So he's into round 3, then looking at the likes of Danny Nopper, but we'll obviously come on to that.
Yeah, so big fan of Chizzy. Not a lot to add there. Not sure he's got the mindset to go and win a world championship, but wouldn't complain if he did. Really deserve.
And I don't like his new haircut.
Major title.
I don't like his new haircut. This new lockdown haircut he's got. You can tell he's been having his haircut at home by the missus rather than going to the actual barbers. Don't like it.
Doesn't surprise me. I was once told by somebody I knew in the past that Dave Chisnell is a regular for buying Space Invaders and 4 cans at his local corner shop. So
you can imagine.
Lot of time for him. But moving on, we've got Martin Clearmaker versus Cameron Carrollson. I will admit the South African runner Carrollson is not someone who I've ever heard of. He's come through the African qualifier. Fair play to him. I had a little ratch around to see what I could find on him. The answer, not a lot. So generally, I'm going off the basis that the African qualifiers generally aren't producing people who go on massive runs at the World. Devin Peterson being the obvious exception, but you only have to look at the World Cup this year. Devin Peterson, the standard of his partner, was not great. Now, Clearmaker on the other side, the Dutchman is definitely somebody that I would be watching very closely. The Dutch giant, 6'8", this man, if you haven't seen him before. Believe he was actually trapped head to toe in his incubator as a baby. He was so big. Not sure if that story is legitimate, but I'm happy to throw it out there. If you want to see a little bit of this guy at his best, get on YouTube, watch his Players Champs match with Luke Humphries. He won it 6-5. He had checkouts of 98, 121, 164, 86, and then won it with 140 finish. This guy is really, really good. Next one off the Dutch production line. Fully expect him to beat the South African here, and I would be very interested in his price against his compatriot Danny Nopper.
Yeah, so it could be an all-Dutch second round tie there, and I'm 100% with you on that. I do remember that performance from Clearmaker, and he put all them finishes in, and Danny Nopper, it brings us onto him. He just doesn't really cut it at this level at the moment. Former BDO, he was right up there in the BDO before nipping over, but he's done all right on the floor this year. I was looking at his record today, Danny Nopper. We're back on?
Yeah, we're there.
Sorry, slightly delayed it. Yeah. Danny Nopper on the floor this year has made 4 quarterfinals or better, but nothing on TV to really write home about. I wouldn't back him to beat Chizzy in the 3rd round if he makes it that far. He's 200-1 for a reason, and I don't see him doing much.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, Danny Nopper. He's obviously got ability, but when he gets the chances in the big TV majors, he hasn't really yet to perform. We come on to what will be a lot of people's must-watch game of the 1st round. Luke Humphries versus Paul Lim. This one, you've probably got heart and head. I think the public would love to see a Paul Lim victory here, but whether it's actually going to happen, I'm not so sure. Paul Lim, a real icon of darts, icon of the World Championships, hit the first ever World Championship 9 darter back in 1990, nearly hit one again 28 years later against Gary Anderson. Wired the double 12, would have brought the house down. Well, still did bring the house down, to be honest. And I think that has secured him his legendary status with the new breed of darts fan, if you want, as well. But he's taking on Luke Humphries here. It's a terrible draw for Paul Lim. Humphries, former world youth champ, just looks like he's finding some form. He reached the 3rd round of the Players Champs where he lost to Gerwin Price, but that was a good little tune-up. He's a 2-time quarter-finalist here. He likes it here. And, as much as people want to think of this as a nice match, Humphries is 2-9, and I think that probably does represent the golfing class between the two. Good luck to Paul Lim, very likable fella, but hard work for him here.
Well, he's getting on a bit now as well, Paul Lim, and he still wears that like Under Armour.
Mid-60s, I think.
Yeah,
Mid-60s.
Yeah, but I mean, as you mentioned with Humphries, he's been to a quarter-final at the Worlds before. I think that is absolutely key in the World Championships. If you look back, the amount of eventual winners of the Worlds that have gone a long way previously, and often beat in the final. MVG, Anderson, Snake, etc. Them kind of guys. Taylor, even way back in the day. Barney. They've all been beat in a final and then won it in future years. So. Or even a trip to the quarters like Luke Humphries or Dimitri Vandenberg that's been to the quarters, who we come on to now, the number 9 seed. Dimitri Vandenberg's 22-1. Fun story about Dimitri that we alluded to on our last video. Pie Man and myself once backed this man at 1,500-1. Only for him, so that was at the start of the year, I think in 2017, and he was just starting to do bits on the tour. Only for him to turn up at Ali Pali and mismatch darts in the quarterfinal against the eventual winner Rob Cross. So that was quite painful for us both, but we won't lull on that. So Vandenberg has had the best year of his life on the hockey, and that he was for me the standout player in the Grand Slam, despite not winning. I know Jose de Souza was also standout as well, but Dimitri was superb. Averages in the early stages of that tournament by far and away the best that anyone produced at that tournament, and possibly the whole year. James Wade edged him out in the semi-final in the Grand Slam, and the only time that Dimitri was behind in the whole match was when the last dart was thrown by James Wade. So that shows how much of a good game that was. It's also been Vandenberg's bagged his first TV major this year. He beat Gary Anderson in the World Match Play final with ease. That was his first major. That was in July, so just after they returned after lockdown. Like I say, has the all-important experience of going pretty far in the World Championships. Is undoubtedly in the form of his life, and is my idea of a good bet, to be honest. Regardless whether I've grown to think that he's miserable and boring on the stage and methodical, which I do think, don't let that cloud your judgment. I still think is a decent bet at 22-1. After the Grand Slam, where he played ever so well, he was as low as 14 or even 12-1. We was talking about it. We backed him at 20-1 plus. He went out in the first round of the Players' Championships finals, and as we say, that happens in the first couple of rounds. There, it's only a race to 6, very short format. He's gone out there in the first round, and for some reason, he's drifted out to 22-1. I think that's an overreaction, to be honest, especially like I say in the best of an 11 legs format. I'm confident that Vandenberg makes the quarterfinal here. He's 7-1 to win this quarter. Now, I think that's a good bet if you're looking to trade it, because if there was a match to take place tomorrow between Vandenberg and Van Gerwen, would Dimitri Vandenberg be 7-1 to beat Van Gerwen? I don't think so. So I think there's a trading angle there. I think he would be 3-1 max, maybe shorter, maybe 5-2. So assuming that Van Gerwen and Vandenberg make the quarterfinal, as I think they will, Vandenberg at 7-1 to win this quarter, I think is the standout bet of this whole quarter that we spoke about today, and that will definitely be my play on this.
Yeah, you made some very good points on Dimitri. I find myself agreeing with a lot of what you're saying. Naturally, someone we've followed for a long time, and he did have a dip in form. There used to be question marks over whether he would get back up to the heights that he'd shown early in his career when he first burst onto the scene. He seems to be back in that form, if not even better. He seems to have given himself a real shake since the World Cup. Really encouraging performances, coming into it a little bit under the radar despite those good performances, just because of the re-rise of Van Gerwen, Price. You've got such depth in the field now. And as you say, that drift on him is just bizarre. I think, if you're looking for someone who is the wrong price, he could be your man. Right, last game. We're rattling through. Last game in this quarter from the first round is Dirk Telneckers versus Nick Kenny. Probably two names that people aren't too familiar with. These guys are both relatively new to the PDC circuit. Both won their tour cards this year. Dirk not really managed to do a lot. He is the world number 87, so he obviously has a bit of his game. But you look at his floor results from this year, they have not been very impressive. He had one good run in I think it might have been the autumn series or the summer series to sort of the quarterfinals. But This guy is regularly getting beat in the first round of floor events, doesn't come in any kind of form. Nick Kenny, I quite like Nick Kenny. He's ex-BDO. He's made the switch over. He's done a little bit more in the floor events. He lost the last 16 game against Ratajski. He's beaten Johnny Clayton. He's had some good games with MVG. He's probably showing a little bit more on the form line. If they've gone 5-6 either way on this one, I'd be inclined to go with the Welshman.
Yeah, and the winner of that will take on Jermaine Watamina. And to be honest, I think that they would have a chance of beating him. Watamina's 200 to 1. He's likeable, big Dutchman, but infuriating. I want Jermaine Watamina to do well. He shows some really good form sometimes on stage, but it just can't be relied on. I mean, doubles under pressure is not his thing. It really, really isn't. And that's where he comes up short against the big boys. But I think he's still young enough and raw enough to kick on if he can. Something's got to change, and we'll come on to the likes of Devin Peterson in the second quarter. He's made big changes. He's got some sort of, could you call him a darts coach or advisors? Jermaine Watamina's screaming out for stuff like that, to be honest. Like I say, it's 200 to 1, and there's a good reason why. He did make a final of a floor event in early November, but that's by far and away his standout form this year. He's done pretty much nothing on TV, and he's done very little on the floor. And that brings us to the end of quarter one. So we're going to do a short video like this for all 4 quarters. The links will be below in the description box. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you soon.